Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Raising the Nays. Today's episode is going to teach Ace how to be peaceful.
For sure. You want to say hi, Ace?
Say hi, baby.
Say hi to the camera. Wow. Yeah, and being peaceful, that puts you in the right mental space, Ace.
Yeah.
To strengthen all of the other character traits that we talk about in this video series.
Right.
And we're talking about internal peace in this video, not outer peace, which is more in alignment with our last video on love.
I'm going to put him down.
Yeah. And being internally peaceful, that's limiting the tension inside of you, being calm, being able to think clearly, not being too high, not being too low. And the first part that we want Ace to understand is he's responsible for his inner peace, as we alluded to in our responsibility video. You all right, big guy? And if Ace doesn't understand his responsibility for this, then the rest of what we talk about, all of these strategies, won't even matter. And a lot of people, I've noticed, they let outer tension dictate their inner tension.
Right.
But that's not productive. And of course, no one is perfect, so occasionally that may happen, but you want to fight against that.
Yeah.
And it's a dangerous game to play because literally every bad action and emotion in the history of the world can be attributed to something that happened to that person or their emotions. And Miriam, I told you this the other day. I saw something on Facebook. It said like, my personality depends on me. My attitude depends on you. And I thought, what a disempowering statement.
Yeah.
You know, to say that your attitude, you don't even have control over that's disempowering.
Yeah.
And you know, you can flip that, like your actions, words, and reaction can sometimes depend on another person. But when you're talking about internal attitude and power, nah, Ace has control over that fully. You know, if he says, oh, I'm just mad, when he's throwing a temper tantrum, as all kids do, we're not gonna say, oh, well, that's all right that you're mad because this happened. Like, no, like you gotta be able to master your self-control. And I talk about this power and peace connection in a lengthy post I wrote about 2 years ago called The 32 Laws of Power. I'll put a link below. And one thing I want to reference in that post was just being mindful. You know, mindfulness is our topic for the next video, but in terms of peace, it's like don't let the past or uncontrollable situations hurt your inner peace, which a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So if Ace says like, last week my friend did X, Y, Z, so that's why I'm mad, he's gotta be more mindful than that, not let it affect him.
Right.
You know, the old saying, don't cry over spilled milk, that applies here too. And in general, of course, babies are happy one minute, sad the next. So they're almost more mindful than adults. So that's something to ponder about. You know, and another thing with inner peace is, you have to let go of your negative feelings that you have.
Yeah.
And this seems counterintuitive a little bit because you're like, won't that just disrupt your inner peace? But the connection is when you hold all of that inner tension inside of you, that just hurts your inner peace. Sometimes you have to go to war with yourself, get it over with, release the pain, and then improve from there. And I want to make a distinction here too. You accept your negative energies inside of you from your own perspective or experiences. But you don't accept negative energies directed to you. You deflect those off. And this is in regards to Aces throwing things over there, but hey, we got a 1-year-old, we're just gonna work through this. Miriam is attending to him. And this is really applicable now and really always, right? Because the news is mostly negative. And a lot of people let outside news disrupt their inner peace. But you have to fight against that. You have to be open-minded. So the news is a snippet of the trillions of things that are going on in this world.
Yeah.
And you can't let that disrupt your inner peace. You can't let that happen. And forgiveness plays into this too. I go deep, Miriam, into an exercise on forgiveness in a post I wrote called The 12 Commandments of Happiness. I'll link that. But to summarize it very quickly, with Ace, he'll, at a certain age, of course, not right now, he's too young, but at a certain age, he'll write down people in his life that have hurt him and situations that have caused him hurt and really dig deep into that pain and then let it go from there. That's what forgiveness is. And also forgive himself too when he makes a mistake. That's a part of forgiveness. And if you have a powerful form of forgiveness and you prioritize that, that's going to help your inner peace. Yeah. You also have to be aware of all of your thoughts. So be aware of when your inner peace is disrupted, maybe before it's manifested on the outside. So this ties into self-care too. Because with Ace, I can envision him at a certain age, maybe working too hard in one particular area of life and neglecting another area. Right. So you need a balanced life to have inner peace. If he's working too hard with sports but neglecting his academics, that might disrupt his inner peace. You have to be well-rounded and be conscious of that. And another thing that I want to mention with this is inner peace and being mad are highly tied together too. You know, Buddha had that quote, what was it? Anger is like holding on to hot coal with the intent to throw it at someone. You are the one that gets burned.
Right.
So with Ace, he needs to recognize the constant fight against your angry self, against your worst self. If he doesn't even recognize that that battle exists, then, you know, he won't even be able to fight it, and it's just going to manifest externally.
Yeah.
And how are we going to get him to be motivated to fight against this? One exercise is we really want Ace to envision what an angry person looks like. Maybe ask him, so Ace, when you were angry this one time, were you able to think clearly? Yeah. Or remember when mom and dad was angry this one time, how did we look? And he'll be like, you didn't really look too well, you were visibly unappealing. So he'll be motivated to fight against that side of him. You know, and a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of the time, you can flip anger into empathy.
Yeah.
So when your first instinct is to be angry at a situation or a person, flip that, try to understand where the person is coming from. Because if you don't, and just become angry, you're pretty much giving that person power over you. It's shame on them, not shame on you.
Right.
And this is very important to understand because being offended and being hurt, that serves you really no purpose, especially if it comes from another person. And this is tied in with a video online. This dude was named Leo from actualize.org on YouTube. I remember a quote from him one time. He said, "A fully developed person gets offended at nothing." Because being offended, that's really just on you, that you're letting that person control you. And right now, this is very important, I think, because I'm seeing a lot of parents and the news almost encourage their child to feel hurt, offended, a victim, that sort of thing. But that's not productive at all. Because then a child, you have to understand, a child has to live with themselves. They have to live with their heart. So Ace needs to choose to have a peaceful heart no matter what.
Right.
And you may be asking, so isn't it important though to validate your child's feelings of feeling hurt and that sort of thing? And I'll say yes. And encouragement and validation are two different things. You can validate when your child actually feels offended, hurt, or they're like a victim. But don't encourage it. That's totally backwards. And I think some parents go too far with that. And also, you may be thinking, well, isn't anger sometimes good sometimes? And I'll say yes. But my point is, you don't want to respond to someone from a position of chaos internally. That does you no good. You have to respond from a position of power and strength. Respond in a calculated, calm way to have a positive purpose for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I wrote a post a few years ago on this concept on positive anger. So this is like controlled anger can be positive. When it's uncontrolled anger, it's just being mad. So my post was called Mindset Control, Be Pissed Off. And really quickly, I'll mention what I mentioned in that post. Ray Lewis, a football player in 2000, he went through a lot that year. There was charges against him. He says before games, a lot of the time, people would say racial slurs to him. Okay. And he would overcome that. And he used that to get pissed off. So when he went on the field, he dominated. His team won the championship that year. He used that anger for good to dominate on the football field. Yeah. So same thing with Ace. When someone says something hurtful to him, if he just responds in a hurt way, does that do him any good? It doesn't. You have to use it to your advantage. So one example is if someone says to Ace, "You suck at basketball," after he, say, gets cut from the basketball team, sulking about that does you no good. That just hurts your internal peace. You have to respond in terms of, I want to get better from this so I can dominate that friend the next time I see them, and I'm going to make the team. Yeah. Massive success is the best revenge a lot of the time. Right. Or if he fails a test, what are you going to do? Be nervous every time for the next month until you take a test in that class again? That just hurts your inner peace. You have to look at adversities as motivation to get better, to improve. And Miriam, we can model this sort of thing with him. So any adversity we encounter, we can't let it get us down the whole day. Yeah. And also, of course, we're a couple, so disagreements happen, but we can't lose our cool from that. We have to prioritize our inner peace, so Ace prioritizes his. And I referenced a post, I know I just told you about this, the post was called Inner Peace Maintenance for Parents. So I'll put a link down there if you're interested in that. And another point with this is not being too high or too low. And what I said earlier about a child being mindful, that's a good thing, but it's also a negative thing. So the negative of that is a child sometimes is screaming one minute, happy the next. So they're too high and too low. And it's a parent's responsibility to encourage and teach their child how to master their self-control around that.
Yeah.
So it's a complex thing on how do you discourage your child from being too low. And this is a bit counterintuitive, Miriam, but I thought through this and I think it makes sense. So basically, when a child whines a lot of the time and they're throwing a tantrum, they're doing it for a purpose. A lot of the time they want to have something from you. So it's like, if you give into that and you prioritize their inner peace in that moment, you're like, ooh, I want my child calm. I don't want their inner peace to be all crazy. You actually encourage them to do that again and again and again. Yeah. So you encourage their internal peace to be disrupted, and they're taught they get what they want when they throw a tantrum.
Depending on the situation.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, we need to have firm rules pretty much, right? And have a routine with him so we don't discourage him from being too low.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes being hurt can be a positive thing, but with kids especially, a lot of times they just want something. That's not positive.
Yeah.
And being too high. So what does that look like? That's like you let your guard down. You're too excited, too amped up, and you can't focus clearly. Mm-hmm. So this is like in sports. Anyone who follows sports knows this. If a team is up, say 5 points, 1 minute left, sometimes you let your guard down. You have to fight against that. Keep on maintaining your consistency. Right. In school, you got an A on one test. Keep up the hard work. Yeah. Keep up that A, Right. Don't let your guard down and become too high. And we're going to pay attention to Ace's poise in those moments and in high pressure situations too. So we're going to almost put him in controlled environments that test his pressure and how he responds to it. Mm-hmm. So a couple examples are like, even right now, if he's playing on the floor with a little mini basketball hoop, we might count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mm-hmm. and then see at 1 if he just like goes crazy, or if he's calm and can still shoot the ball. Or at the park, I was thinking a more creative thing. We'll bring a word search and be like, Ace, find as many words in here in 1 minute as you possibly can. That's how much more minutes you can stay at the park. So that's like under pressure, put him in those controlled environments, see how he responds to it. Yeah. And that's going to help his inner peace. He'll realize, look, I just got to be calm, work through this. And Kobe Bryant, I want to mention something from him. I saw this podcast that he was on when he was asked, so Kobe, how do you maintain your internal peace and your calm under pressure? And he said he's still, he's mindful, and he unpacks the worst case scenario of things. So he might say like, look, the worst case scenario, if I miss this shot, I'm embarrassed. Or there's fear because I let my teammates down. But he's like, so what's so bad about that? I've let my teammates down before. Nothing really too bad happened. So right. He realized, look, there's no point in stressing about this because the worst case scenario isn't even that bad. So Ace is going to encounter a lot of scenarios like that during a class presentation, any pressure moment. We want him to recognize, look, no matter what happens, Ace, you're still going to be okay. Right. Stressing about this doesn't really do you any good. And this is tied in with patience too, because a lot of times you have to be mindful of the moment while trusting the process. And there's 2 quotes I want to mention here that I'm sure you've heard. One is, good things happen to those that wait. Another one is, good things happen to those that get up and make something happen. So both are true, right. Meaning you have to embrace the moment while trusting the process for what you're going to do down the line, as long as you take advantage of the moment. Yeah. And inner peace comes into play because a lot of times people look forward to something too much a week from now, or the pressure of the next week's test gets to them, and they're nervous about it right now. You got to stay in the moment, have patience. And I want to end on this in this video. Don't misinterpret this video as peaceful is being lazy, being complacent, not having a sense of urgency. No, we're talking about peaceful internally, not externally in terms of action to attack your goals. Right. So you need to press the right chill button. Don't have a lack of urgency. It's mainly peaceful in terms of not being rattled by anything on the outside and having a chill, laid-back persona no matter what. That's what that's about. So use your peaceful attitudes for your benefit, for your greatness, and not against you. Yeah. I encourage you watching to encourage your child to do the same.
Yes. And thank you guys so much for watching. Let me grab Ace so he can say bye to you.
Come back over here, Ace. The Ace was throwing a tantrum in the beginning, but like we said, sometimes he's just got to work through that. We're not going to encourage that by just giving him stuff. Say goodbye, Ace. Come on.
Say bye to the people, and then we can go to the park. Say bye.
Say goodbye.
Okay.
Share the video and take care until next time. We look forward to the next video, which is our last character trait on mindfulness. So take care.
Bye.